Hey, what's up everyone and welcome to another Modular. Today we're going to be taking a look at the new augments that came out in this evening's patch, and those are for Nova, for Gara, for Khora, and for Inaros. We're going to start off with probably my pick of the bunch, and that is the one for Nova's M Prime, and that is Molecular Fission. Now, funnily enough, the one for Molecular Fission doesn't really affect her Molecular Prime. Well, I mean it does, but it's not really for her Molecular Prime, if that makes sense. It adds quite a bit of synergy with their first ability. You're going to be fairly familiar with setups like this, using Neutron Star to be able to recast your Null Star. Null Star as a base ability cannot be recast, so most people use Neutron Star so that you could then detonate all the particles and recast your one. But then that meant that you had periods with low damage reduction. It cost energy, obviously, to recast. And it also meant that you were sort of exposed for a little bit of time. Well, think of that no more. Molecular Fission is here. Enemies that are killed under the effect of Molecular Prime will restore a Null Star and have a 100% chance of restoring an additional one. Now, as far as I can tell, this isn't affected by anything. It's not affected by duration. It's not affected by power strength or anything like that. So this is pretty much what you see is what you get. And can actually be used on both builds. My Neutron Star is actually going to be changed out because this is my Speed Nova build. My build actually needs a lot of updating because you can actually make use of adaptation now, which is really, really solid. I really want to do an Umbral build for this at some point. So we're going to put in sort of 8 Corrupt Heavy Gunners. They're only level 100, but obviously we don't have adaptation stacked, so we don't want to mess around with that too much. So we're going to start off, we'll lose a couple of charges. 12, down to 12, 11 charges, 10 charges. Let's just lose a couple more charges. So yeah, down to 8. And as you can see, back to 11, 13. We're back to the 15 that I actually started with. But the thing is, that actually means that you don't ever really, like, provided you're killing pretty effectively, which honestly, most of the time you're going to be, you're actually going to be really rather tanky. As you can see, like, I've had my Grace kick in there, my Guardians kicked in. My Nova's actually really rather tanky right now. And that sort of effect is kind of doubled with the fact that you take less damage anyway, because M-primed enemies are slowed by, like, what, 90%? Is it 90%? 75%? Something like that. But the thing is, that really means that they're, like, rate of fire is so much slower anyway, so their damage output is a lot less as it is, and that actually means that Nova is actually extremely tanky. Honestly, like, she's very hard to kill, which is really, really good. I like that. I like the fact that you can actually sort of run around with an actually tanky Nova. I like it quite a bit. And honestly, this Augment is brilliant. I will actually be playing with this Augment quite a bit. I really, really will. I think it's my favorite one. It's kind of odd that it's not really an Augment for her M Prime. I mean, it affects her M Prime, but it's actually more of a... It adds some nice synergy, which is what I'm kind of... I like that. I like synergy between abilities. And I think that it's probably the only thing they could do to M Prime without making it, like, ridiculously overpowered. Because let's be honest, M Prime is already a very, very strong ability. So yeah, look. I mean, even before the M Prime kicked in, I was actually sort of able to sort of stand in front of these guys and take a bit of punishment. It's a very, very good augment. And it allows adaptation to be used really, really effectively. So I'm very happy with this. I am very, very happy with this M Prime augment, and that is why it's absolutely my pick of the bunch for these 4. So the second one we're actually going to be taking a look at is the one for Khora, and that is Venari Bodyguard. Now what that does is basically if Khora is going to die, Venari dies instead. But instead of being able to resummon Venari, you have a respawn timer of 150 seconds, which can be shortened by 4 seconds every time you kill an enemy. And that, as far as I can tell, the 4 seconds isn't affected by anything at all. Neither is the timer, so that is something that cannot be affected whatsoever by any mods. It's just quite nice, because you can play around with a whole ton of builds, and, yeah, just go with it. So let's die, which is a very odd thing to say. So now we're going to die. When you die, it's quite nice because you get a small period of invulnerability, which allows you to do whatever you need to do. As you can see, now we've got 144 seconds. And every time we get a kill, 136, 130, 23. So you kind of have to kill like 30 or so enemies to be able to... I don't know why that didn't... I think that was just broken animations that screwed that one up. Animation states often break things like procs and whatever in Warframe, but yeah. So yeah, for every enemy gets killed, it was going to reduce the timer until venari comes back. So let's just keep killing. I should have chosen something a bit squishier really, but you know how it is. Always testing on the higher level units. So we're down to 45 seconds now. There we go, down to 20 seconds. So honestly, it takes... let's say 30, 25, between 25 and 30 units to be able to get venari back fully. So we've only got 10 seconds now, so we'll go in, kill a couple of units, and now venari is back again. The thing about this is, though, that honestly, a proper build with Khora is pretty survivable anyway, and provided you've actually got venari in the fight. So, like, let's say, for example, let's get venari straight into the fight there. In fact, venari's already in the fight. And then you start messing around with, like, using her too and everything. Like, Khora actually is very survivable on her own. Especially when venari is attacking, especially if you are starting to mess around with the mecha set like I am. She doesn't actually die very often whatsoever. But the problem is that venari is actually a huge part of your survivability. Venari, when she attacks, if you've got the... I can't remember the name of the mod is, but basically when venari attacks, she actually heals Khora. And even, like, if you use Khora to attack, you then heal venari, so there's a good bit of synergy there. You don't really ever... you don't ever sort of die, but you also don't want to lose venari, so... I'm kind of on the fence on this one, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, between the two, like, yeah, like I say, Khora and venari, and if you're running a Kubro as well, which I'm not, like, she is so tanky anyway. Like, for the majority of the content you're gonna do, like, unless you're going up against some ridiculously high levels or just messing around in Mott or something, you're not gonna need this. Like, I think it's one of those ones that she just doesn't die off enough for it, like, for it to work. And you've actually got to wait for her to die for this to actually have any bonus whatsoever. So, I think it has got a place at proper high-level content, where her survivability and where the healing from venari and from her Kubro and isn't quite enough to be able to keep up with things. I can't remember what the name of the mod is. Hang on a minute. Let's have a quick look. Is it Pack Leader? You've got Pack Leader and Hunter Recovery. Like, between these two, there's so much that, like, she's so tanky, she's so survivable, that honestly, I don't really think that this is actually particularly worth it, especially since accumulating Whip Claw. She's sat down here completely unranked right now, is so good. I just don't see the situation where venari bodyguard is going to be particularly useful. And I think if you could actually affect the timer, maybe the timers for me just feels too long. I don't know. I think it's mostly because the fact that you have to go to proper high level content. For the majority of the content in the game, this isn't going to be used. It's not going to be needed, and it's just going to sit there as effectively just blocking a mod slot. So I'm not going to say that this is particularly worth it. I don't know, maybe you should let me know in the comments below what you think about it. But honestly, I think venari is such a key part of Khora's survivability in the first place, that sacrificing venari as part of her survivability seems to be counterproductive, at least to me. But hey, maybe you could, maybe if you got a different opinion, just let me know in the comments below. So let's move on to Gara's one, which is Spectrosiphon for her Spectro Rage ability. Let's quickly look at the Spectro Rage. Trap enemies in a carousel of mirrors, forcing them to attack versions of their true selves. Destroyed mirrors damage their attackers, as does the collapse of the carousel. And it does a certain amount of damage. It takes a certain amount of damage and does a certain amount of damage. Which means at higher level it doesn't actually scale particularly well, which does actually affect the augment quite a bit. But the augment itself is enemies that die within Spectre Rage have a 50% chance to drop an energy orb. Now, as far as I can tell, that isn't actually affected by power strength. It's kind of hard to tell because numbers get very messed up very, very quickly with natural energy drops and stuff like that. So, probably should have chosen something a bit squishier than heavy gunner units, but hey. As you can see, we haven't had a single one yet. There's one. There's another. So yeah, we actually only got 2 out of all of those heavy gunners. There's another one. There's 3. And I spawned, what, 8, I think? So, the problem with this ability, or not this ability, but this augment, is it's very feast or famine, to be honest with you. You either get, like, loads, or you get none. Because it's a 50% chance, so yeah. So there's one already. As you can see, Spectre Rage is already dead, so you have to cast this a lot in the first place, especially at higher level, because it's just going to get nuked down really quickly. There's another one, there's another one. So yeah, there's a lot of energy around this time round. This is what I mean, but it's very feast or famine. You either get loads or you get none. There you go. The amount that we got this time around, it was what, 4 or 5? I think 5 this time. So yeah, it can be useful. Like, don't get me wrong, I think if you're playing around with a Spectre Rage build, then having spectrosiphon can be very, very helpful. I personally am not a big fan of Spectre Rage because I don't find it scales particularly well, so I'm not a person that builds around it, at least not personally. As you can see, it's, I don't know, we got 1 there, we got 2 there, 3 there. Oh no, that was just that one proccing. I think we only got, like, so out of this 8, I think we got, what, 3? Yeah, 3, because he dropped 1. Oh, no, 4. So, yeah, 50% chance. It's not bad. I'm just not a fan of the base ability. So, if you like the base ability and are wanting to play around it, I think it actually is something you could potentially make use of. Like, it definitely isn't a bad augment. It's just one for an augment, for an ability that I'm not a fan of. So, it's going to be one that you're going to have to sort of play around with. If you like the ability, I would play around with it. Definitely isn't a bad augment. I think it is something that is definitely usable. It's not something that's going to make me go back and try out a build or anything like that. But, as you can see, like, it synergizes so well with Arcane Energize. You're going to have energy for days if you use this, I have to admit. So maybe it would find some room on someone's Gara build if you're running a particularly energy heavy build. Potentially this could be used to sort of mitigate some of your energy issues, because having no problems with energy right now. So like, the only problem is like just keeping the Spectre Rage up, because it doesn't scale particularly well, as I was saying earlier. So. But yeah, I think it's a solid augment. Like I say, I just don't think it's one for an ability that I particularly enjoy. So play around with it, see what you think, and see what you can do with it, I guess. If you like the ability, you're probably going to like this augment for it, to be honest. And so, moving on to the final of the augments, and that is Inaros' Desiccation Curse. Desiccation is his pocket sand, his first ability. The one that blinds enemies, basically, and will just open them all up for finishes. And on a finisher, those enemies then have a 75% chance of spawning a sand clone of them. As you can see, we've got sand clones running around now. We've had pretty good RNG so far. I'm out of energy, but as you can see, sand clones are attacking and doing low damage, because Inaros is not known for his damage output, as we already know. So this augment, I personally think, is almost utterly useless. I really, really do not like it whatsoever. The clones don't last long enough, I don't think, to do anything meaningful. It relies on the finisher style of gameplay, which is quite possibly the most boring gameplay in Warframe. Because doing this animation 4 million times is not fun. And as you can see, they don't actually last very long, and as far as I remember, they're not affected by duration whatsoever. I do have a max duration builder I was actually playing with earlier with these, and it doesn't seem to affect the duration of the sand clones, which makes... I guess maybe there's... maybe that's to stop there being like an insane army of them around. That was the build I was playing with. 306% duration. I wasn't messing around with strength because as far as I could tell, strength doesn't affect this. But neither does duration. Duration doesn't affect the sand clones at all, so... It does affect the duration of the pocket sand, though, so... There you go, look. And as you can see, we've still got roughly about the same chance of spawning the sand clone as before. And they last about as long as they did before. So we got... Oh, so it looks like maybe it... See, that's why we don't rely on... And they're dead already, so... That's why we don't rely on AI in Warframe. I'm just walked off of the edge. But yeah, so duration doesn't even affect it. So they don't last long enough for anything to be... for anything to happen. It does actually seem to be capped at 3, by the looks of things. Let's see if we can play around with that again. See if we can actually get more than 3. I don't think so. I like that we managed to get knocked down, even though it was... So we've got 1 so far. RNG, it says 3. Right, there's 3. Is that 4 or is that still 3? That's still 3. So yeah, it looks like it's capped at 3. Which isn't... Cool, we fell off the edge. And... Yeah. So yeah, it's capped at 3 by the looks of things. Because this one there had died before the third one had spawned, so... I don't understand quite why it's capped. I mean, I guess for performance reasons, but they don't really last long enough anyway to become much of a problem because they last like, what, 10 seconds at most? So you're never really going to have a particularly large army of them because it's whatever you're going to be able to kill within 10 seconds reasonably. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. I think we got 3 running around now. Yep. Oh no, hang on. Do we have 4 now? No, the first couple have died already. So yeah, before we've even finished killing the group, so a group of 8 heavy gunners, the first ones are already, like the first clones are already dying. Yeah, I am not a fan of this augment. I don't think I'm going to use it at all. I thought maybe if it had been affected by duration, maybe I'd have done a fun build and like tried to have this insane army of sand clones, but because it's not, and the duration is so short, plus it relies on the most boring gameplay of Warframe, which is just finishers, I'm not going to recommend this at all. I really, really do not think it's a very good augment whatsoever. So, I think that sort of sums everything up, to be honest. The Gara one is good if you like the ability. The one for Khora, I'm sort of on the fence for. I'm not a huge fan of it, but, you know, I can see how some people might want to put it into their build. The one for Nova is amazing, and Inaros is pretty terrible. So, I hope you enjoyed this look at this video. I would definitely recommend, or definitely welcome comments in the comment section below. Let me know what you think of them. If you think you're going to use them, and if you think I've missed anything. Because occasionally I can definitely miss a niche use for something. And I am more than welcome and more than willing to go back and try it and even do a video on it like I did with the tanky Baruch. So, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I shall catch you in the next one.